Welcome to Georgetown, Penang. It's a UNESCO World Heritage City and it's full of street art, amazing food and this fantastic heritage trail that we're going to start today. About to tear it down with Ray.
How good is a Michelin star samosa? We'll figure out who the mole is.
It's a cannon.
First stop on the heritage trail is Armenian Street, which is full of sort of lovely artworks, murals. There's the boy on the bike that we need to find and maybe some cafes along the way. So let's go have a look.
We start on beautiful Armenian Street, named after the Armenian traders who once lived here. These days, it's probably more famous for street art than merchants. Umbrellas overhead, murals everywhere, especially children on a bicycle, which might pop up very soon. The Heritage Trail is one of the best ways to explore Georgetown, but it's far too much to cram into a single day. And if you're not careful, the midday heat will absolutely catch you out like it did us. So join us as we explore the cultural highlights of Georgetown, Penang, and let's all politely agree this was filmed in one smooth, breezy afternoon. Part of the Heritage Trail here in Georgetown is this Captain Keeling Mosque. It's in the religious quarter of the city and it was built in the 1800s by Indian Muslims coming over, and actually I've just read that the land was gifted by the East India Company, so there we are.
This is the oldest Chinese and Buddhist temple in Penang. It is the Goddess of Mercy temple. It's dedicated to Queen Yun, I believe, who's the Hindu goddess of compassion. Been here since 1728, and as you can see, there's still loads of people coming and worshipping every day.
This is St George's Anglican Church. It's the oldest church in the whole of Southeast Asia. Built in 1818, and another one donated by the East India Company. See a theme here. So all of those places of worship that we've just had a look at are within a 4-minute walk of each other, and I think that just goes to show the multicultural nature of Malaysia. It is having a bit of work done, so probably not as picturesque as the others, but yeah, there we are.
Next couple of places on our tour are in Little India. So Little India is sort of established in the late 18th century, obviously as Indian population moved across to Malaysia and set up. And the second you walk in, you can just smell that beautiful food. It's really colourful, lots of sari shops around. As you can see, there's plenty of little places to pick up some Indian delights. And if we're lucky, we may have a little treat in store for me later.
This is the oldest Hindu temple in Penang, here in Little India. I'm not going to slay the name, Paul will put it on screen, but it's an active place of worship and it's right in the heart of Little India.
The real way Lisa got me on this heritage trail, obviously there's loads of beautiful stuff that we've seen and will see, but samosas and bhajis that have a bib gourmand in the Michelin guide, and they are 150 ringgit each, so that means I can try them all. But how good is a Michelin star samosa?
So that car's just pulled up, wound down his window, made his order, was given his samosas, and he's just about to head off.
There you go.
That's drive-through service for you.
No idea
which is which.
Which is which, so we're just going to tuck it. Oh, they are a little bit warm, I thought they weren't, but... Right.
What flavour?
I think that is possibly the mutton, but what I can tell you what the flavour is. Beautiful. That is so tasty. Do you want a little bite? It's got a little kick to it.
I'll have like a corner bite. Oh, that pastry's good.
That is. Oh. That is unbelievable.
As you can probably tell from Paul's reaction, those samosas were a huge hit. If you want the full breakdown of these and other Michelin-approved bites, check out our Georgetown food video. Spoiler, the food is incredible. Unfortunately, our planning wasn't quite as well cooked as the street food. The heat won, so we retreated back to the hotel for aircon, cold showers, and a minor personality reset. But don't worry, we're back out this evening, refreshed, changed, and heading for some waterside exploring. So we're at the Clan Jetties, which is these group of jetties that are all on stilts and have lots of tiny little houses on them. And each one is owned by a different clan. They've been here for over 100 years, and now the frontages of the houses are like little shops and stuff. So it's really cute. We're very lucky because it's not very busy today, and we've seen a lot of videos online where it's absolutely chocker. So we've obviously come at the right time, but yeah, fantastic.
Also, any fans of The Mole on Netflix will recognise all of this, because we just figured out that is definitely where it's filmed. Maybe we'll figure out who The Mole is. We found it much easier than they did.
Yeah, but there's the clock tower.
Clock towers over there, which again we found much easier than they did.
We're gonna have to watch the clip when we get back just to see what we can understand. Now we've been here for a few days.
Day 2.
Join us on the accidental second day of our afternoon walk. We're starting outside the Penang Peranakan Mansion, one of the most beautiful historic homes in Georgetown. You'll notice we didn't go inside today, and that's deliberate. We've no doubt it's worth the entrance fee, but like many of you watching, we're travelling on a budget and trying to see as much as possible without paying for everything. That means being selective about what we spend on and what we admire from the outside. Hopefully, we've struck the right balance. If not, let us know in the comments what you think we absolutely should have paid to see and what we can save for next time.
Okay, so just around the corner from the mansion and on the way to Fort Cornwallis is
statue we're talking about. That Big Ben looking statue. It's a clock tower.
the Queen Victoria Clock Tower. So this was built in 1897. It was to commemorate her Diamond Jubilee. And if you look at it, it leans ever so slightly to one side due to some bombing in World War II.
So just a minute down the road from the clock tower is Fort Cornwallis, built in the late 1700s by the British. Whey! It's the largest fort in Malaysia, and it's never actually seen battle, but there we are. Lots of cannons, a few old walls. Let's go and have a look.
So paid 20 ringgit each, which is just over £3.50. Oh no, 20 ringgit in total or each?
Each, so it was £7.09.
There we go.
Total.
Yeah, just over £3.50 each. Unfortunately, a big chunk of it's closed, so we only get to see what we get to see really. So, and annoyingly, you normally get 10 ringgit off of the cafe, which is in the Michelin guide, and it's closed, so we don't.
It's closed on Tuesdays, and today's Tuesday.
We seem to be pros at turning up to places where they're half open, so, but yeah, so we'll have to just stick with the Michelin guide places that we have been. So anyway, let's go and have a look around. So obviously we've seen that the East India Company have, I'm assuming this has something to do with the East India Company, we haven't found out yet, have funded a lot of the temples. But you come here and you sort of get, oh, this is how they manage it.
Yeah.
You just come in, take over, build a fort and stop anyone else. Top work, eh?
So this is a gunpowder magazine. Constructed in 1814, the magazine, located at the northwest bastion of the fort, was used to store explosives. No way. Its pillbox-shaped design with a thick wall was meant to minimise damage in the event of an explosion. Hopefully there's no gunpowder left.
No, it's all been used. Load of these bars.
You would have thought it'd be cooler in here, but it's not.
It's not cool anywhere.
It's getting to the hot part of the day.
Which is, one of the things we've realised while doing this heritage trail is you need to plan your days. It's now getting to 12:30. It's starting to really hot up. In the next hour, certainly in September and October, I assume, it becomes unbearable. That's why you'll notice we've changed clothes. And we had to give up the other day because it just got too hot walking around. So don't rush. There's so much to see here. We're not scratching the surface really. So yeah, just have a look at the bits you want to see. Check this video out, pick your ones, and plan your days slowly. Have a look at a few food courts to go along with it, and make sure you find somewhere cool for the mid-afternoon part of the day. Come on, in your best teacher voice.
It's a cannon. So it's one of the most famous cannons. I didn't know cannons could be famous, but apparently they are. It was put on board the long wooden boat facing the North Channel by the Japanese in 1941. It had the Dutch East India Company symbol and dated from 1613.
Well, that's the sort of intersection of people you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. But in Georgetown, you get cannon aficionados and street food enthusiasts. Obviously, half of it's closed, including the cafe, which you normally get a discount at. And it is only £3.50. But when there's such good value elsewhere in the city, our recommendation would be
Probably don't come, unless you're a military history nerd.
Or double check that it's all open and it's not a Tuesday.
Yeah. And
if you get tendering it off at the cafe, it might be worthwhile. But not for us today, unfortunately. Great views of the sea and a lovely cannon.
About to tear it down with rain.
It's part museum, part boutique hotel.
Horrible clouds, and we're just about to walk back to the hotel, so we're going to get wet.
We're outside the Blue Mansion, which was built in the 19th century by the Rockefeller of the East. Put his name here because I can't remember it now already. But yeah, it's half restaurant, half museum. They do guided tours, and apparently one of the most photographed buildings in Penang. But it's starting to rain, so we're running for it. That's the end of our tour.